Miss 96 here with another movie review. This time I'm reviewing the movie The Hobbit. So yeah, The Hobbit Desolation of Smaug, number 2. So I've obviously got some toys out here from The Hobbit, and so I've seen this Hobbit movie 3 times. Twice in the Cine Capri and once in 3D with the high speed film rate. So I'll talk about that too. But yeah, so overall, really liked it. The first movie, just to give you my thoughts on the first movie, when I went into the first movie, I wasn't excited to see it, didn't know much about The Hobbit, didn't really know anything about the Lord of the Rings or anything like that, so I really was not looking forward to it, but I still wanted to see it, of course. When I got there and watched the movie, I really enjoyed it, really had a great time with the movie, and so I've been excited to see this movie. Again, during the trailers, it didn't look too fantastic, I have to say, but I was still excited to see it because I liked the first one so much, and this one was really very good in my opinion. So yeah. So the returning cast was all very good. This movie was interesting because the first movie had some things that I really liked about it that I wish was in this movie, or at least had that same type of feeling for me in this movie. But this movie had some new stuff that was very good as well. First of all, I'm just trying to see where to start, what to start talking about. So Bilbo Baggins, of course, he's got the ring. Oh, this is a spoiler-filled review, just so you know. It'll say it in the title, though. So Bilbo has the ring, and, you can see a kind of effect in him. He's not so, you can see that he's a changed person, but he's still the Bilbo that you know. So that was really nice. I'm really happy to see that. I like the ring. Unfortunately, though, like in the beginning of the movie, they used the ring a lot and saw how it affected him, and by the middle and end of this movie, he was barely using the ring, and when he did use the ring, it really didn't affect him much. So that was something that I liked to see in the beginning of the movie that really just didn't, follow through to the rest of the movie that I would have liked to see. I liked the goblins from the first movie, I really did. I didn't think there was any chance of seeing them in this movie, and we didn't, but that's completely fine. All the dwarves are very good. I like Oakenshield a lot. I think that he's just a really good character, and I think it was really well done. One thing I didn't like about the first movie that this movie did a lot better was Radagast. Or I might be pronouncing his name just slightly off, but the Radagast the Brown, the wizard, was very goofy, very silly in the first movie, and in this movie he's still the same character, but he's not as goofy and silly, and I really just liked the way that he was used in this movie because of that. He seemed like a really good character in this movie, while in the other one he came across as annoying more than anything. So yeah. The orcs, Azog, we really don't get to see do too much. He fights Gandalf a tiny bit in this movie, but we see Bolg, I don't know how you pronounce his name, but that's this guy right here. In the movie, I was really hoping to see that character in this movie, because we did see him in a flashback, but it went really fast and you could barely see him, so I really wanted to see this character in this movie. So when Azog, yelled his name, I was really excited. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be awesome, I can't wait to see him, and he's gonna be great in this movie. And then the person that walks around the corner, he doesn't look anything like this guy. So I really do not understand, what that's about, why he looks so different. Is that just something that they did in the movie, or is it actually something from the book? I would love to know, because it's so strange that they would design him to look this way for a flashback scene, and then when we see him nowadays, he doesn't look as cool, and he's completely different. So I'm not sure what was up with that, but he was quite disappointing, I have to say. I hoped that, by the end of this movie, he'd get some more armor or something and look a little bit closer to this, but he doesn't at all. The elves, really enjoyed the elves in this movie. I wasn't excited for them. I find them a little bit boring, just like in the first movie. I like that elf scene in the first movie, but, after watching the movie over and over, it's definitely the slow part of the movie. I really enjoyed the elves. First of all, starting off with this guy right here. They're like the king elf. I really enjoyed his character. I like that he's definitely not a nice guy, out for himself. I thought that was a really good idea for his character. The only thing I didn't like was how he moved. He had his arms behind his back, and he kind of twisted his body when he was talking to people. I just really thought that was a really unnatural type of look for him, so I didn't like that, but that's a small nitpick. Orlando Bloom's character, his elf, Legolas. I'm thinking his name's Legolas. I really don't know anything about Lord of the Rings, just so you know. The Hobbit's the only thing I know like anything about. So sorry for my ignorance on the past trilogy, the Lord of the Rings. So yeah, but Legolas, really liked him in this movie. I liked the whole thing that he had between this dwarf and her. I thought that was really natural looking and stuff, and it was really neat. I liked her character a lot as well. I thought that both of them fought really cool, and the fight scenes were really fluid. They were really nice, and it kept it really fresh and exciting throughout the movie, which was great. Gandalf was cool. We didn't see him in this as much, but when we did see him, he was definitely awesome, and really liked that a lot. So I'm really happy about that. The whole spider scene, I hate spiders, I hate bugs, just period, and I thought that scene was gonna really gross me out. It didn't gross me out too much, but I really enjoyed the scene. Surprisingly, I was not looking forward to it, but the scene was really cool, really entertaining. I liked the look that they gave these spiders. They didn't look like actual bugs, they looked more of like a, kind of like a mutant spider, in my opinion at least, and I liked their voices and how they talked and what they said. I thought that was really cool. The whole barrel scene was a very exciting scene. I wasn't looking forward to that scene. I was, it didn't look that exciting to me in the trailer, and in the movie it was great. Probably one of my favorite scenes, very high intense, and it was just really great. Let me see here. Smaug, the dragon, of course, the highlight of this movie. The dragon was great. I think that his voice was fantastic. Khan, who did his voice, and Cumberbatch. I don't know his first name, but Cumberbatch did his voice. Really loved the dragon's voice. I thought it was a very intelligent, superior kind of sounding voice, which was really nice and very cool to see. And the way that he moved and the whole dragon's look was just really entertaining. It was very high intensity whenever that dragon was in the room, because you're just like, Bilbo when he's just talking to him. He's so helpless, and that was really neat to see. The only thing is, I would have loved to see Smaug be more wanting Bilbo Baggins' ring, the ring, that this whole thing's about. I would have loved to have seen Smaug really want it because it's gold and try to go after it. So, and he does mention it, but he doesn't go after it. So I would have liked to see that, but that's okay. The whole, I'm trying to think here. The person who, picks them up and smuggles them into that city, the one that looks like Orlando Bloom but isn't, his character was pretty good. I didn't, find anything bad with it. I thought that, his story was really predictable, how it was his ancestor who failed to kill a dragon. I mean, I saw that coming from a mile away. It's just, that's where this movie really falls, in my opinion. It's very predictable, which means the intensity is down a bit, because, that guy, that his ancestor was that person, and the way this movie ends, of course, is the dragons coming towards the city, and this should be a huge high-intensity moment, and you're like, how are they going to beat this dragon? That's what should be going through your mind, and because of that, it should make it... Oh, wait, hold on a second, my phone's going off. Alright, sorry about that. So when he smuggled him into the city, and there was the king and the king's, I want to call him his jester, but his, kind of right-hand man, I thought that they were a little over the top, something that you wouldn't see in this kind of, I don't know, I didn't love them too much. After a while, I started to get really used to those two characters, and started to like them by the end. But the whole thing with, I think that I was talking about the dragon coming before, sorry about that. So when the dragon's coming, you know how they're gonna kill him. I mean, there's no intensity, because that guy's gonna get out of the jail, either by the four dwarfs that are there, breaking him out, by, the elf breaking him out, by him explaining to the guards and the king that, he can actually beat this dragon, or just by the dragon, smashing into the building or something and him escaping himself, He's gonna get out of there, and those are just 3 easy ways that he can get out from a movie, and I guarantee you one of those ways is how he'll get out of the movie. And he'll go to the, to the slingshot thing, and, he'll load the one arrow he has, everything will be getting destroyed, people are gonna be running, and we're gonna see him at the last second, shoot it, and it's going to go right where the last arrow went, and it's going to take the dragon down. We all know it, which is just super disappointing. It's not super intensive, it's not like, ooh, how are they going to do this, this is how it's going to happen, and then the movie's going to end. But luckily, the Smaug, that will just be the beginning battle in the next movie, and the ending battle we'll of course have to see, and that will be more entertaining because we won't know how that'll end and stuff like that. So I really did enjoy this movie overall. It had a lot of entertaining moments. It's pretty high intense throughout the movie, and when it does slow down, the dialogue and what they're doing is really pretty good. So it doesn't leave you bored or wanting action or anything like that. It really is a well-written movie. One major thing that I don't like about it is like the transitions, and I just don't, the way that this movie is like edited together, I felt like wasn't done very well. One of the things is when they get to the elf kingdom and they're being walked in and stuff, it shows like parts of the elf king's body, and they show his hand on the staff, and then they show his other hand, and then they go back to them, and then they come back to the elf, and then they show his head. It was really strangely put together, something that you might not notice, but if you see the movie again and just kind of watch it, it just looks odd how they're doing it. So that's a small nitpick, but that is something I don't like. But a major nitpick that I have is that in the movie when they're at the guy's kind of barn, at the bear's barn or whatever, and you see Bilbo looking at the guy who just walked in and everything, and then it cuts to some horses running, and then it cuts to a bee in his face. It was done together really bad. Like, it would make sense if they showed Bilbo actually like going to sleep, and then that's what happened. But it wasn't, because one moment Bilbo is looking at this guy, and then he's woken up the very next moment. So it's just so strange that they don't show him, going to sleep, or at least laying his head back down or anything. It was really badly put together, and I know it's supposed to be a joke that Bilbo's dreaming about galloping horses and stuff, but I have seen this movie 3 times. All 3 times, well, the first 2 times I was in a packed theater, and I was in the Cine Capri, which is a very large theater, and then the last time I was in a regular theater that was like halfway full, and not every single time, nobody laughed in that scene. I think people were just confused at what was going on because the transition was so odd. So I think their attempted joke became more confusing and not a joke at all. So I really didn't like that. And yeah, I think that the humor, like, they gave it a shot in this movie, but I think it fell flat in some places. Like when all the dwarfs are like hidden the door of the barn and trying to get in, and then Thorin just comes and he just lifts the little lock and they all go in. That's supposed to be funny. There again, nobody laughed during that part. So I see, it's a shame when you see like the movie like go for a joke and then nobody laughs. It's just a little like, oh, that was a little bit of a miss, And this movie had a couple of times like that, but it did have some humor that a lot of people laughed at in other places. But so those are my main problems with the movie. But those are of course smaller problems. Overall, the movie is very enjoyable. It's very good. It leaves you wanting more for sure. Even if you're not left there like, oh, how are they gonna fix it? You're there going, I can't wait to see them fix it, even though you know how it's gonna happen. So overall, really did enjoy this movie. Would highly recommend you go see it, and overall just I really enjoyed it. So there you go. So that's my review of The Hobbit Desolation of Smaug, and thanks for watching.